So we'll kick off with a nice easy one. So given your background in traditional finance, what initially attracted you to the world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets?
It was realizing how broken the world was in that period between, let's say, 2007 and 2012. Over that period, my core thesis of debt demographics and deflation all came to a front, and the excess leverage world blew up, both in 2008 and then again at sovereign level in 2012, where people forget this, but we almost lost the sovereign debt markets of all of Europe. And I realized at that time that in an over-leveraged world, there wasn't enough collateral to pay the claims. In fact, it was undercovered by 40x in many cases. And the money that you had in the bank was not your money, because they magicked in this new thing called bank bail-ins. And it was at that point that I realized, okay, this is a terrifyingly dangerous system, that if something goes wrong, everybody loses everything. And that's why Draghi had said, whatever it takes. I never really understood it until a lot later, when I started to understand that their answer was actually debasing currency. I didn't know this at the time. I got into blockchain because I knew in an over-leveraged world, we needed new rails. And I thought tokenization of assets was the answer. So I wrote the first ever macroeconomic strategy piece on Bitcoin back in, I think, March, April 2013, and started investing myself. But my thesis deepened and changed over time.
Wonderful.
Can I jump in here? Don't we have the same? I'll get rid of that. Don't we have the same circumstances now? As in, we've got high debt, and the question sort of is, the US dollar has traditionally for 70 years been sort of the backbone of the financial system, and its coupon is pretty much perceived as the risk-free rate. But there's a lot of risk attached to that, to their currency, because of debt, poor management of the economy, military exercises, the use of SWIFT as a weapon, and so on and so on. Are there digital assets like ETH and its coupon that could replace the US dollar?
So firstly, I don't think the dollar or the system is under threat in the way that it was. It's a different attack vector. Because the issue is, in a debt deflation or a debt default, the collateral needs to fall to a certain point. But because of the magic of money printing, it optically looks like the value of the collateral goes up, right? So you can actually never default. That was the trick they discovered that I only figured out in 2020. I'm like, I get it now. It was all to stop the collateral going to zero. And in an overly indebted world, where more people owe dollars than anything else, there's always a shortage of dollars every time the world slows down or there's a problem. So the dollar has structurally been higher since 2008. And I think it's a secular trend because of what's going on. However, I also think that over time, the world has to move away from a dollar standard as a reserve currency. I think the Europeans have made it clear that they can't deal with this. Most emerging markets can't deal with it. Even for a country like New Zealand or a country like Australia, export nations, to be beholden to the dollar exchange rate is nonsense. It doesn't really make sense. So something has to emerge from this. And, the BIS and all of these people understand this too. But there's no way around it when everybody owes so many dollars. It's all well and good to say, oh, yeah, we'll just get China to walk away from the dollar. Yeah, but they owe, I don't know, 20 trillion of the stuff or 10 trillion of the stuff. So they have to pay it back. If not, they go bust. But what we do see is an ongoing migration from old world to new. Once you see new world, call it crypto land versus fiat world, once you see how broken fiat world is, you're going to start migrating more and more your assets into crypto land because it's deemed to be safer. And as you rightly say, and there we have almost a replica of the fiat world economy, we have sovereign nation states. We've got ETH, we've got Bitcoin, we've got Solana, we've got whatever, XRP. We've got taxation systems driven by the cost of using the protocols, the fees. We've got security spend, like you do in economies, on securing the things. You've got assets, which are NFTs and other things. So you have an asset-based economy. And you have yield and a financial system all there, which is DeFi plus staking yields. So there's really interesting things once you see it, is we are actually building a mirror image of fiat world, but on new rails. And so what's happening is over time, the migration is happening. It's not happening all at once. And every 4 years, 3 of those years sees net migration into crypto land. I don't think of the ETF as net migration, immigration or migration, because they're not using crypto rails. So they are foreign direct investors or hot money flows, and they will come out again. But anybody who sets up a ETH wallet or a Bitcoin wallet, now you're a citizen of this new world too. And the percentage of your assets you operate in one world versus another is how much time you spend in that economy. So it's really interesting.
That sets up really well for Tracy's question, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Do you think that they will? Do you think this marks a structural change in how TradFi sees digital assets, and if so, how?
So again, I step back because we're all so in the weeds of crypto. But let's look at it. This is China opening up pre-WTO. And this is a trade deal between fiat world and crypto land. And now you've got a free trade deal, or relatively free trade deal, to go and do business and put your not direct investment, because that would be VC, this would be hot money flows, investments into this new economy. And so what you've got, much like we saw when we opened up the Chinese economy, tons of foreign capital will pour in. Why? Because it has higher rate of returns. And it's had a higher rate of returns because it's earlier in its adoption curve. So yes, I do think it's a very big deal. What should happen is it will create a multiplier effect in crypto land, and that will create more VC, more business being built, higher token prices, and creates a flywheel effect. But you've also got that money that can suck out as well, because it's hot money flows. And we see that in international trade. So it's a double-edged sword, but it is a good thing. On the more sinister side, what it allows is the US regulators to be able to ring fence a whole bunch of the market within its control. So therefore they can integrate it more into fiat world. Now, I don't mind that personally, because I think of it like a Trojan horse. They think they've got control, but you can't. It's a distributed network. But for them to think they have control, they've just opened the door and let in the Trojan horse, which is now all of these TradFi firms can market to their customers about this beautiful new country that everybody's living in, getting rich and having a good time. And that is not a good idea. It's kind of like when Russia opened up, people didn't move to Russia, the Russians all left.
Interesting. And so extrapolating that to potential future ETH spot ETF, how does that look in terms of now we're dealing with something that actually has a yield, and that introduces a whole new dynamic into almost a direct contender for a risk-free rate in a treasury bond, things like that. How do you see that playing out?
So firstly, I'm not sure that the ETF providers will give a yield, because it's probably difficult via the ETF mechanism to do so. So they'll be making supernormal profits, much like the stablecoin providers are making supernormal profits right now. That won't last over time, but they'll be making supernormal profits. So they really want to do the ETF. And the ETH ETF is the same. It's a trade deal into ETH, the sub-economy of crypto land. So that'll all be good, no problem. But my actual thesis is more aligned with the second part of your question, is that I think TradFi will think of this as a digital bond, which gives them exposure, and they will want direct exposure because it's something they can do stuff with. You can make structured products. I came from a derivative background. You can do all sorts once you've got a yield. Right now, we haven't got a full yield curve in ETH. We've got, kind of spot yield. Or what we really need is a curve that goes out. What are 10-year yields in ETH? Kind of interesting to know how to do it. Can you hedge your currency risk and just have the yield? There's a whole bunch of stuff that will come into play, and that will create a much larger financial economy in crypto land.
We've noticed that the yield mechanism, when talking about bridging TradFi and kind of DeFi worlds, the yield mechanism from a taxation point of view introduces a really interesting opportunity that certain investors are interested in. Is can a product be structured where the yield is the taxable event and not the underlying capital appreciation of ETH? And for people that have a long-term investment thesis in ETH, that's very appealing. Have you come across that kind of narrative in your travels?
I live in the Cayman Islands.
Fair enough.
We don't pay tax.
Yeah, fair enough.
The answer to the question is that no, I haven't. It's the first time I've heard of it, but interesting. It just depends how the authorities are so slow to figure this stuff out, decide what's taxable, what's not.
Yeah, cool. And I mean, you get asked questions all day long, but open to you. Like, what is something new that you're working on that excites you? What gets you out of bed in the morning, and what are you working on now?
I'm not working on anything specifically new at a top level. I'm just trying to create as much understanding and access points to this new crypto land economy. Like, one of the things that I've built is a business called Exponential Age Asset Management, XPAN. And the issue is that in traditional markets, there are $4 trillion of hedge fund capital, and they're pricing out, making price discovery all day, all night, different time horizons, all sorts of different stuff. It makes markets more efficient. We kind of all like crypto because it's inefficient and there's a lot of alpha. You can make a lot of money even by being an idiot. You don't need to do a lot. You just need to figure out some certain things. That will go over time. But the hedge fund market in crypto is $4 billion in a $1.8 trillion marketplace. So there is actually not enough secondary market capital in crypto outside of a few trading firms. So I thought, people want access, family offices, institutions, and others want access to these hedge funds because they're giving supernormal profits in an asset class that gives supernormal profits. But they can't do the individual funds because it's too difficult, and the individual tokens is even more complicated. So just make it a fund of funds, make it easy. So that's one access point that I'm really focused on because I want people to participate in all of this. Much like on the other side, I'm trying to educate people. With Real Vision, making sure that people are given the confidence and understanding, or the knowledge, tools, and networks in Real Vision speak of what to do to succeed in this. Because a lot of people are disadvantaged because they're young and they come into record high asset prices and incomes that aren't enough. So they're kind of screwed. And even careers have changed structure these days. So they need something. And this is that something. It's also the first globally homogeneous investment product. Gold was, but there's so much bid offer spread and difficulty in doing it. Here is something instantaneous and truly global. It's the same in Mumbai as it is in Nairobi, as it is in New York City. That's amazing. So again, we have a global opportunity to bring people in and front run the institutions, to front run Silicon Valley. We get that for once. not them with the VC deals. Everybody can put 10% of their paycheck in because it's fractionalized. It's meant for everybody. So, and it solves the problems. Not only do we make money from it because we get to invest in the network and the network growth, but it solves the problems of the broken system that we've gone through that got everybody to this mess in the first place. So it's like, what's there not to be excited about? And then you get into, and Tracy, you'll understand this, once you start getting into NFT world, it becomes even more interesting because now you're seeing culture being tokenized. Right, and tokenization of culture is where I think society moves to. We move to these culturally relevant kind of digital nation states, places where we hang out globally. Like here we are in different continents and different time zones, so easy now with digital worlds. So our digital playground and our digital community is everywhere. It's not the community of, wherever you are in New Zealand. It's now something much, much more global. And the whole idea of assets that are relevant to those communities, the culture of those being tradable, and the fact that every day is more digital, and NFTs are just a way of recording a contract, and humanity is built on contracts. Every single thing we do, including me turning up today, is all a contract. 3 of you getting together, all a contract, a verbal contract. But some contracts need to be written. Some need to be utterly immutable and unquestionable. Well, it solves all of this. That's insurance, that's OTC derivatives, that's whatever you want it to be. It's ticketing, it's everything. But also, what I love is you can see as most revolutions occur, it's the artists who are at the front. These NFT artists are breaking new ground. They're merging AI, generative art. They're using blockchain technology. They're doing stuff. They've seen it and they want to experiment with new stuff because it's culture at its rawest form. That's really exciting too. So there's a lot of vectors here, and a lot of people think it's about one thing, but it's about all of the things. It's literally the future of the internet.
Yeah. I've got a marketing background, and I've really enjoyed seeing the journey of kind of Web3 loyalty programs and that bridging of what does a Web3 community look like, and how can brands really tap into unlocked brand equity. I mean, I know you've used the examples of something like Disney and things like that before, just an incredible amount of brand equity and loyalty and nostalgia that, new ways to tap into that, which is really exciting.
Yeah, because they are intangibles on a balance sheet. With tokenization, you can make it a tangible. Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah. I think one of the, and doing some consulting work with brands that are exploring this, the part that causes tension and some discomfort is you lose a certain amount of control. So to get the really big network effects of a Web3 loyalty program, there has to be a community that can take things in directions that you might not be comfortable with. So there's that inherent tension there.
And I don't think we've got the answers yet. I think you can put non-tradable loyalty points, but where you're held accountable because it's on chain. You can have communities using NFTs and other things, but I think we haven't yet got DAO structures right. We haven't got self-governance because people generally are not very good at this stuff. Everybody acts with self-interest or group interest, and somewhere within that you kill all of the magic of what it was about in the first place. I've not seen a good DAO outside of a super focused DAO like collecting NFTs, Flamingo DAO. Okay, that works.
Yeah. But
get a management sort of style DAO, haven't seen it work yet.
I have a couple of observations. I think first of all, your fund of funds should be listed on DSG. The second observation is maybe DSG should look at an office in the Cayman Islands. I mean, our focus has been on Singapore and Hong Kong, but maybe we look at the Caymans as well for tax structuring innovative products.
Yes, I mean, it's a good jurisdiction. A lot of the crypto firms are here. All the crypto law firms are here. Half the foundations are here. MakerDAO is here. Aarve's here. Bullish, which was Block One, they're here. I'm on the SUI Foundation. I'm here. There's a bunch of the kind of direct subscription service providers, Cartan Group, a whole bunch who are here. Walkers are probably the main offshore law firm in the whole space. They're here. KPMG have a big crypto practice here. They were pioneers of that. So yeah, there's a lot of it here. So it makes a lot of sense. Just depends what area, what kind of thing you're looking at doing. And talk to me about listing stuff digital. So we are looking for distributors for XPAM. So if you think of New Zealand, we're dealing with a couple of people in Australia. We're changing distributor, but that is something as well. So we haven't tokenized it yet because liquidity is difficult.
Yeah, I mean, basically DSG is a two-sided marketplace. So on our demand side, we work mainly with wholesale investors, and a big majority of that is, the demand from Hong Kong family offices, obviously huge in the space. And Tracy's background from Australia, they have a self-managed super fund type of option where people can kind of take ownership of and take more directive approach to their pension fund, basically. So there's a lot of appetite there to get exposure to these products. And then on our supply side, we have asset issuers that don't quite meet the criteria for a traditional exchange. Maybe they're not quite big enough. Doesn't make sense with all the paperwork and costs to list on an exchange, but they need to raise capital for growth. And so using a tokenized securities exchange like us allows them to raise capital, raise bonds and things like that.
And have you tried funds on it? And I don't know if it works because of the liquidity.
So there's a couple of approaches where you could do it, but yeah, a fund, an ETF-like mechanism works quite well. Now the secret sauce is all in having both sides of the market, so to have good liquidity. But one of the ways to kind of bootstrap that is to partner with other kind of exchanges overseas and share liquidity. So that's a really interesting approach that kind of takes.
We're probably not the right product for that because it's a fund of hedge funds with underlying liquidity terms, and there's not yet an established market really. I mean, there's only about 3 or 4 fund of funds in the entire world with over $50 million or whatever. So
cool. And just before we wrap up, give a shout out to Real Vision. Why should people check it out? What kind of value do you offer, and what have you got going on at the moment?
So really, I believe that not only is the financial system broken, but the outcome of that is maybe some of the largest opportunity sets for investors, which is a weird world where you can be completely pessimistic about where we've got to, but also optimistic about what you can do. But that requires knowledge. We're bombarded with information, but information is to a penny. It's everywhere. And most of it's not curated. So what Real Vision really does is arms you with the knowledge, tools, and network to allow you to thrive in your financial journey. And that's exposing people. I mean, we were pretty much the first people to talk about cryptocurrencies back in 2014. Our first ever video was Bitcoin and other things. We've tried to take people on this journey of, we know where this is going. We don't know the path it's going to take, but let's educate you, connect you with each other. Let's give you turn that information into knowledge and then hopefully bring it into wisdom. So we created a platform. We started as a media business, but now it's really a financial knowledge platform where you can live your financial life. There's AI tools to help explain things to you, summarize things, make life easier. You can connect with members all around the world. So if you spin the globe, look at New Zealand, you can see how many members are in New Zealand. It's amazing, that whole thing.
I love that.
I mean, we've got members in like Lesotho in Africa or in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and whatever. So you can connect with people, and soon we'll have regional chats. So you can just ping everybody in New Zealand. Now, then you'll have meetups, and then, it all starts multiplying. And then there's, the ability you'll see rolling out in the next couple of weeks. And so we're going to start supercharging the notes ability. So you'll be able to take notes and also trade ideas and then share them with the community, and people will kind of get behind your ideas. the idea is we can eventually move towards kind of crowdsourced asset management, where people together can vote on chain and create opportunities, because I think the crowd is smarter than the individual these days, particularly if you educate them. So really, it's the place for people to live their financial lives, and it's free to join. So people just go to realvision.com, join, use it, and then find out, where you want to go in your knowledge journey depends on which tier you end up or which other products you use.
Awesome.
It's that screen to start with, like the dashboard to start with in your morning. You know how you go, oh my God, where am I going to start? CoinGecko, Real Vision, so it's a great one. And that's
going to get improved. So the watch list will get better. Then there'll be some AI for the watch list that will tell you what's moving and why. So that's going to be useful. As I said, the network part, there'll be regional stuff. So you'll be able to come in the morning in New Zealand and connect with everybody. Say, hey, how you doing? Who's up for a drink tonight? Who's thinking about this? What did the Prime Minister say? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Or you're traveling to Sydney on a business trip or Hong Kong. You hit up the members there. Say, hey, listen, I'm coming to Hong Kong. Who fancies a meetup? Who can introduce me to somebody about? Okay, then we bring this. This becomes powerful, because the Real Vision members. I mean, look at everybody. It's really interesting.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Raoul. Great to meet you, and we'll be in touch, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
And you,
Okay,
and you all
thank you.
take care.
Thanks,
Nice